Hello my fellow crocheters and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, I'm Shaz and today I'll be sharing with you this fun crochet cardigan tutorial. This is my son Valentine and he is strutting his new favorite cardigan in size toddler 4. But you will be able to find all the other sizes in my blog in the description box below. And before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to my channel to get in on all the fun and free crochet tips and tutorials if you haven't done so yet. Let's check out all the materials that we'll need for this tutorial. I'm using the Kobu yarn by Lion Brand in the color denim and a 4mm crochet hook. We will need several stitch markers, a tapestry needle, and ideally some buttons as well. We will first be working on the front left panel and working our way from the bottom up. For this size, I'll be working up 22 chains, so go ahead and make a slip knot and work up your chains. Once you've completed your chains, you'll chain once more to start the next row. For the next row, we'll work a half double crochet into that second chain from our hook. We'll yarn over, insert a hook, drop a loop, yarn over, and pull through all loops. We'll continue working half double crochet stitches in each chain across. Once you've completed working your first row, you'll go ahead and chain one and turn your work and work your half double crochet stitch into that first stitch and continue working all the way across. I'll meet you back here once we're done with the second row. I've just completed my second row. Chain one, we'll turn our work. Now we'll be working cable stitches. So on our first stitch, go ahead and work one half double crochet. On your next stitch, you'll go down into that first row, yarn over, insert your hook behind the second post, and work a front post double crochet stitch. For our third stitch, we'll yarn over twice, and we'll find the fifth stitch on the first row. We'll work a front post treble crochet stitch into that fifth post, making sure not to stitch too tightly by pulling your loops high. Next, we'll chain one, yarn over twice. We'll go back into that third post and work another set of front post treble crochet stitch. This will form a crisscross for our cable stitch. Our final stitch would be on the sixth front post. We'll work a double crochet front post stitch, and don't forget to pull up your stitch slightly higher. Next, we'll count back the 6 stitches that we worked on. We'll skip 6 stitches, and on that 7th stitch, we'll work a half double crochet stitch as normal. So basically, this is all we need to know for our cable stitch. Once you're done with all that, we'll continue working the half double crochet all the way across, chain one, and go back all the way and work another set of half double crochet stitches. Now, if you look at the last 7 stitches that you made earlier, it looks like it has another layer to it. But just go ahead and work that half double crochet stitch on the current row as normal. On that last stitch, go ahead, chain one, and turn your work. Now let's go ahead and work on the cable stitch for the next row. First, we'll work a regular half double crochet stitch into that first stitch. Next, we'll work a front post double crochet stitch through the front post double crochet stitch that we made earlier. So we'll insert a hook behind that post and work a front post double crochet stitch. And don't forget, always to pull your stitch slightly higher. Now we'll be working on the cross. So we'll yarn over twice, insert your hook through the top left stitch, and work a front post treble crochet stitch. Chain one, yarn over twice, and find the back diagonal stitch and work your front post treble crochet stitch. And finally, we'll work a front post double crochet through that last post. You'll go back and find the 7th stitch and work a regular half double crochet on each stitch all the way across. And this is how your cable stitch will look like. Continue to half double crochet all the way across and back, and we'll work on the cable stitch one more time together. I'm on my last stitch. I'll chain 1 and turn my work. Now I'll work a half double crochet into that first stitch. I'll work a front post double crochet into the next post. Yarn over twice. I'll work a front post treble crochet into the left diagonal post. I'll chain 1, yarn over twice, and work a front post treble crochet stitch into the right diagonal post, and finally I'll work a front post double crochet stitch into that last post. I'll find the 7th stitch and work a half double crochet all the way across. Now you'll be able to see the cable stitches beginning to form. So for the next few rows, I'll continue the same pattern for a total of 24 rows until I've reached the bottom of the neckline. So go ahead and work up the number of rows that you need, and I'll meet you back here just before we do our decreases. So I've just completed 24 rows, and now I'll be working on my decrease row. So first, I'll chain 1 and turn my work. I'll work my half double crochet stitches all the way across until I've reached the 3rd last stitch. I'll meet you back here once we're there. Once you've reached the 3rd last stitch, go ahead and work a half double crochet 2 together decrease stitch. Chain 1 and you'll turn your work. On the next row, we'll also work another set of half double crochet 2 together decrease stitches. And because we've already reduced 2 stitches, we'll have to go straight into our 3rd cable stitch. So we'll yarn over twice and work a front post treble crochet stitch into that left diagonal stitch, chain 1, yarn over twice, and work another set of front post treble crochet stitch into that right diagonal stitch. And finally, you'll work your front post double crochet stitch into that last post and continue working your half double crochet stitches all the way across. So go ahead and work your half double crochet stitch back, and I'll meet you back here to work on the decreases again. So I've worked my way back to the last 3rd stitch, and we'll work a half double crochet 2 together decrease stitch. Chain 1 and turn your work. I'll work another set of half double crochet 2 together decrease stitches, and because we've already reduced 2 stitches, we'll go straight into working a front post treble crochet stitch, not in the left diagonal stitch but the right bottom diagonal stitch. You'll chain 1, work your front post double crochet stitch, and continue working the half double crochet stitch across. And this is how the last cable stitch row should look like. For this size, I'll be working a total of 7 decrease rows, and I'll meet you back here once we're done with our decreases. Once you've completed all your decreases, we'll go ahead and work the same number of stitch all the way until we've reached the total length that we need. I'll be working a total of 9 more rows. Once you've completed all your rows, our left panel should look something like this, with the really pretty cable stitches on the right. Next, we'll be working a mirror image for the right panel. So just like before, we'll work a slip knot and work the same number of chains as we did on the left panel. Once you've completed working on your chains, go ahead and work 2 rows of half double crochet stitches before we start on the cable stitches on the 3rd row. And because we're working on the opposite direction, we'll be working on the half double crochet stitches first, all the way until the 7th last stitch. So I've just worked my way all the way until the 7th last stitch, and because we're working on the opposite direction, we'll first work on the front post double crochet stitch through the 6 posts on the 1st row. Now we'll yarn over twice. We'll go ahead and work a front post treble crochet stitch through the 3rd post on the 1st row. We'll chain 1, yarn over twice. We'll go back into that 5th post and work our front post treble crochet stitch. And finally, we'll work a front post double crochet stitch into the 2nd post. And to close up the row, we'll work 1 half double crochet stitch into that last stitch. And there it is. This is how it should look like. We'll chain 1, turn our work. We'll work half double crochet stitches all the way across and back. And I'll meet you back here once we've reached the 7th last stitch on the next row. I've just worked my way back, and we'll work on the cable stitch together one more time. So I'll work a front post double crochet stitch through the previous front post double crochet stitch that we made earlier. We'll yarn over twice. We'll work a front post treble crochet stitch through the left diagonal front post treble crochet stitch. We'll chain 1, front post treble crochet into the back right diagonal stitch. Then we'll work a front post double crochet stitch into that last front post double crochet stitch and work a half double crochet stitch. So because you know this stitch already, go ahead and work the number of rows that you need until just before the decrease row, and I'll meet you back here once we're all there. So I've just completed my cable stitch row. I'll chain 1 to start my decrease rows. So go ahead and work the half double crochet 2 together decrease stitches. Now we'll half double crochet all the way across, chain 1, and I'll meet you back here on the next row. Now I've just worked my way all the way until the 3rd last stitch. So I've worked the front post double crochet and another front post treble crochet stitch. Now I'll be working on the 2nd front post treble crochet stitch. And instead of working on the front post double crochet stitch on the next stitch, I'll work my 2nd decrease stitch on the next 2 stitches. I'll chain 1, turn my work and work another set of decrease stitches and half double crochet all the way across. Do this and back, and I'll meet you back here on the next row. On the next row, you'll work your way until the 3rd last stitch. Here I've made 1 front post double crochet stitch already. Next, we'll work a front post treble crochet stitch through the right diagonal front post treble crochet stitch and work your half double crochet 2 together decrease stitch. Chain 1, turn your work, work another set of half double crochet stitches and back, and we'll work on the last cable stitch decrease together. So this is our last cable stitch decrease row. We'll work that last front post double crochet stitch, and on the last 2 stitches we'll work our decrease of half double crochet 2 together stitch. Chain 1 and continue working your decrease stitches, followed by the same number of rows as you did on the left panel, and I'll meet you back here once we're all done. Once you've completed both front panels, it should look something like this. Now let's go ahead and work on the back panel. You'll work up a slip knot and work the number of chains you need for your width. I'll be working a total of 46 chain for size 4. Once you've completed all your chains, and make sure that you do not chain too tightly, you'll chain once more to start your next row. Now into that second chain from your hook, you'll work a half double crochet stitch and continue to work half double crochet stitches into each chain across. Once you've completed all your stitches, you'll chain 1 and turn your work. For the back panel, we'll just be working regular half double crochet stitches into each stitch. So you'll work your half double crochet stitches for as many rows as you need. It should be the same number of rows as you did with the front panel. For this size, I will work a total of 39 rows. Now we'll be working on the sleeves using the exact same method. We'll work up the number of chains that we need for our sleeves. I'll be working 37 chains and a total of 30 rows. So go ahead and make the sleeves, and I'll meet you back here to work on the cuffs. So I've just completed one set of sleeves, and now we'll be working on the cuffs. So on your last stitch, we'll chain 1 and turn to the row side. You'll insert your hook into each row and work a single crochet. Make sure to work into each row's post and not to stitch too tightly. Once you've reached that last stitch, you'll chain 1 and turn your work. Now we'll be working on the cuffs. You'll insert your hook into that first stitch and chain 10. Now we'll work one more chain to start the next row. Into that second chain from your hook, you'll work a single crochet stitch. You'll continue to work single crochet stitches into each chain all the way across. Make sure you have 10 stitches made. Once you've completed all 10 stitches, go ahead and work a slip stitch into the row side and work a second slip stitch. We'll turn our work in one direction, preferably clockwise. Skip the previous 2 slip stitches and work a back loop slip stitch. Now we'll just be working single crochet back loop stitches into each stitch all the way across. On your last stitch, you'll chain 1 and turn your work in the same direction as you did before. Now we'll continue to work single crochet back loop stitches into each stitch all the way across. Make sure you have 10 stitches made. And once you've reached the end of the stitch, you'll work 2 slip stitches and turn your work in the same direction. Now we'll just be repeating the last row all the way across until the last stitch. On your last stitch, we'll work a slip stitch, chain 1 to secure. Now depending where you end your last stitch, if it's here at the top, just go ahead and bind off. If not, do not bind off just yet. So once you finish your sleeves, we'll be working on sewing them together. Both sides are the same, so you can fold them any way you like. Fold them in half. Now if you've already bind off, just insert your hook and draw up a loop. Otherwise, pick up your loop and pull through the loop through both pieces. In my case, I'll pull through the loop and chain 1 to secure. From here, I'll just be working single crochet stitches on both pieces together all the way across. And once you've completed seaming the sides, it should look something like this. Now go ahead and make a second sleeve. Now let's join all pieces together. Here I have my front panel on top of my back panel with a little bit of gap at the front for the buttons. Now we'll be sewing the shoulder portion together. But first, make sure that your panels are facing the wrong side up. Once you've arranged them accordingly, you'll just insert your hook through the first stitch of both panels. You'll draw up a loop, you'll chain 1 to secure, and you'll single crochet each stitch all the way across the first panel. Bind off and repeat the same steps on the other side. Now let's go ahead and work on seaming the sides. You'll turn your work to the side and place a stitch marker where the underarm starts. In my case, I'm placing a stitch marker on the 15th row from the top. Now I'll insert my hook through both pieces at the bottom of the panel, draw up a loop, and chain 1. You'll work single crochet stitches on both panels together all the way until you've reached the stitch marker. Do not bind off just yet. Once you've completed seaming one side of the body panel, you'll take your sleeve and turn it right side out. Now make sure the seam is flat at the bottom. You'll pull the sleeves through the armhole, like so. And make sure you still have your hook in your loop. We'll take some stitch markers and secure each side of the sleeves. Now we'll pick up our hook from where we left off and we'll continue to single crochet the sleeves and the armhole together in the round. Once you've worked your way in around, just find the first stitch that you made earlier and work a slip stitch. Chain 1 to secure and bind off. Turn your work right side out, and this is how your completed sleeve should look like. Now go ahead and repeat the exact same steps on the other side. Once both sleeves are attached, we'll work on the bottom hem. Turn your work downside up. Insert your hook through the bottom of the front right panel and drop a loop. Chain 1 to secure. Next, work 5 chains. Now we'll chain once more to start the next row. Through the second chain from our hook, we'll work a half double crochet. Continue to work half double crochet stitches into each chain all the way across. You should have 5 half double crochet stitches. Once you've reached that last stitch, you'll skip the next stitch and work a slip stitch. Continue to work 2 more slip stitches. Now turn your work in one direction. We'll skip the previous 3 slip stitches that we made and work a back loop half double crochet stitch. Continue to work 5 half double crochet back loop stitch. On your last stitch, you'll chain 1 and turn your work in the same direction. Here we'll just repeat the last row of half double crochet back loop stitches for 5 stitches and work 3 slip stitches all the way until you've reached the other front panel. Bind off once you're done. We have one more part to go, and that is to do the front hemming as well as the collar. We'll place 2 stitch markers, one on each side where the decrease starts. We'll work single crochet all the way up and then work half double crochets after the stitch marker, and along the neckline we'll work single crochet stitches all the way down. Now grab your hook and insert your hook through the front panel and drop a loop. Chain 1 to secure. On this row, we'll be working single crochet stitches evenly across the row, around the neckline and down back on the other side. And once you've reached the stitch marker, just bring the stitch marker up to the new row. So I've just worked my way all the way down. I chain 1 and work single crochet stitches all the way up to the first stitch marker. Now we'll be working half double crochet stitches. I'll remove the stitch marker and work a half double crochet stitch. I'll return the stitch marker and continue to work half double crochet stitches all the way across until the next stitch marker. Once I reach the second stitch marker, I'll work my last half double crochet, return the stitch marker, and from here I'll work single crochet stitches all the way down. You will repeat this last row for a total of 6 rows. Once you've completed all 6 rows, you will be able to see the difference in height. The half double crochet is definitely much wider than the single crochet row. Now I've placed 5 buttons evenly across the front, and usually for boys you have the buttons on the left panel, and for girls you have the buttons on the right, but it's completely up to you. Now I'll count the number of stitches I will need for each button. Here, my first button, I've counted 7 stitches, and I'll place a stitch marker, and I'll continue to count 7 stitches all the way to the top until the last button. Now I will continue to work all the way in the round and work chains once I've reached the next stitch marker. So go ahead and put your buttons aside. We'll pick up our hook and work our way until the first button stitch marker. So I've worked my way all the way across until the first button stitch marker, and now I'll be making the buttonholes. Because my buttons are not very big, I'll be working 2 chains. I'll skip 2 and work a single crochet. Now let's see if the button fits. because your button and my button size may be different, and it does fit. It's not too wide or too tight. I'll continue working single crochet stitches until the next stitch marker. I'll chain 2, skip 2, and work my single crochet until the next stitch marker. And you'll just repeat this pattern all the way across. On your last stitch, just make sure that you have your 5 buttonholes, and you can go ahead and remove all 5 stitch markers. Once all stitch markers are removed, we'll be working our single crochet until the chain and on each chain, and we'll repeat the same previous pattern of single crochet stitches until the stitch marker, followed by half double crochet stitches around the neckline for another 4 more rows. Now that our front panel and collar is all done, we should have a total of 10 rows. It should look something like this. And from here, you can go ahead and remove the stitch marker on the collar. We won't be needing them anymore. Now we'll be sewing on the buttons. Go ahead and get a tapestry needle and thread through your yarn. Place your button in the center of the row, exactly next to the buttonhole. You can also count the number of stitches you made earlier to space out each button and place your buttons in the center. Once you have them in place, go ahead and sew your button on. To go to the next button, you'll count your stitches, and from the back, you'll thread your needle all the way up to the next button and sew your button on. Now you'll do this 3 more times, bind off, and weave in all loose ends. And we're all done. Did you make it this far? If you did, great job! I hope this cardigan sweater will bring you lots of cozy moments, and if you enjoyed this tutorial, do give me a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. And I hope to see you soon. Bye for now!